The Smart Sequencer is a tool used for simplifying the setup and the overview of the machine automatic chain. It's based on a drag and drop principle, where the user can set up the order of machine movements by himself, or use one of the preset standard movement sequences. Let's go ahead and see how to use this tool. First, we need to go into editing mode by clicking on the button in the top right corner of the page. When the edit mode is active, in the bottom of the page, a toolbox shows up. It contains all the possible building blocks used for creating the automatic sequence. The General Sequence Control tab consists of Layer Open Object, Delay Timer, and several subchain objects. These subchains represent the chains created in the other tabs located on the top of the page. We will get to them in a few moments. Second tab holds the objects for injection, plastification, carriage movements and cooling time. Clamp open and close movements, as well as ejector movements, are located in the third tab. Logic modules can be used to control the chain based on axis status or position, status of a subchain, or a specific point in the cycle. Core in and core out movements are located in the last tab. Let's now go ahead and try to set up a standard injection cycle. We start with the mold close chain. This subchain, like all the others, are not set up right now, but we will do this in a few moments. Next is the inject chain. After injection, we want to plasticize and start cooling time at the same time. For this we will need to open up a layer. Layers allow us to start two events at the same time, and prevents the next event in the chain to start until the layer is closed. Now we can add plastification chain and cooling time parallel to it. After this we will want to move the carriage backward. To finish the cycle, we need to open up the mold and eject the part, so let's add mold open in the ejector chains. For all our changes to be saved, we need to confirm them in the top right corner. As mentioned before, each subchain can be edited individually. For mold close chain, we just need to add mold close. Same like on the main chain, all subchains need to be saved for changes to be applied. For injection chain, we first need to move the carriage forward and then inject, so this is what we add. Next up we need to edit the plastification chain. Be careful not to forget to always save the changes you make. Mold open is the next step in our chain, so let's go ahead and add it. Last step is ejector subchain. Here we need to move the ejector forward and backward, so this is exactly what we add. Our machine cycle is now set up, so we can go ahead and start the automatic mode, and observe what happens. On the left side we see the main chain page, and on the right, we can monitor the subchain pages as we go through the cycle. Active steps are always marked in color, and the timer on the step shows us for how long the step is active. This is one of the main advantages of the Smart Sequencer, because it gives a clear overview of the automatic sequence. The user can quickly see in what part of the sequence the machine is currently, and how long each step takes to complete. Let's stop the automatic mode for a moment, to make some changes to our sequence. In case we want to keep the carriage forward each cycle, we can simply delete the carriage backward step from the main chain, by selecting it, and then pressing the delete button in the top right part of the page. To add a delay of 2 seconds, we just drag it in position in the sequence where we want it, and then click on the little cog to set the time. We saw before, that our subchains are usually very short, consisting of 1 or 2 steps. In theory we could have just made the whole automatic sequence in the main chain window. But by making the subchains we can keep the main chain shorter, and therefore easier to understand. For example, if we want to add oscillations to the ejector movement, we can do it in the subchain page by adding the movements 2 more times. This will increase the length of the ejector subchain, but keep the main chain length the same. Let's take a look at how our changes impacted the automatic sequence. First, in the injection chain we see that the carriage forward movement is instantly completed, since we removed the backward movement, so it's already in position. It is nonetheless important to keep this step, to make sure that the contact force is high enough. When the ejector chain step is active in the main chain, we can see how it's executed in the ejector chain page on the right side. Instead of a single forward and backward movement, we now have 3 movements back and forth. Another big advantage of the Smart Sequencer is the ease of adding core movements. We just need to select the core movement we want and add it in the correct position in the sequence. For example, to move core 1 in, after mold close, we just drag and drop it under mold close chain in the sequence. If we want to move it out before mold opens, we just drop it before mold open chain in the sequence. For example, we can also add a core movement in parallel to mold opening. For this, we will first need to open a layer before mold opening starts. To display some functionalities of logic modules, let's also add an axis stroke component. What this does is prevent the next chain step from starting until the position of the axis that we set up is reached. In our case, it means that core 2 movements won't start until mold opens to at least 600 mm. Core settings can also be set directly from the Smart Sequencer page. If we click on the little cog, a setup window opens, where we can select movement mode, as well as speed, pressure and time for the core movement. We hope this video tutorial was helpful. If you have any other questions regarding Smart Sequencer, please leave a comment below, or contact us directly through our customer service channels. Thank you, and have a nice day.